Hey, Jordan, welcome to the show. I am so excited for this conversation. I know I was just on your podcast
Yes.
a couple weeks ago, the Work and Worship podcast, and now we are coming full circle having you here. So, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I'm honored. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, this is going to be so good. We are going to get into all of the things that you are super known for in your zone of genius, like funnels and automation, and really connecting that to what that can do for our lives as we are called to both. But to kick us off, before we dive in, I would love to hear what has brought you to this moment here, talking about business growth and balancing motherhood and funnels in general.
Oh my gosh. I feel like it's such a long and twisty road as
Yes.
entrepreneurship is of how I've gotten here. Because, I mean, even like 10 years ago, if you told me this is where I'd be in my life and my work, I wouldn't have believed you. I mean, I went to college and got a degree and did like the management consulting corporate. Oh, this is the dream life where I was traveling for work and getting paid a stupid amount of money as like a 24-year-old and all of the benefits and things, right? And I was just miserable. And I would have told you I would have been like a corporate career crushing kind of, that was my goal, right? Climb the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
And I think the Lord was really good in the sense that I had this breaking point really early on in my career. I was like, okay, I've worked really hard and been on this little like assembly line of what success is supposed to look like. This is not it for me. Like I knew I wanted more. And so we started our first business as like a travel blog. And from there, we just said yes to a lot of things. My husband and I backpacked to South America when we quit our corporate jobs. And so just by default, like learned how to build a website. And then we came back and we started knocking door to door on small businesses. Like, can we build you a website?
No
Because your
way.
website's, yeah. And a lot of our business just was like, let's just try it. Let's just learn and see and ask people. And so someone asked us, can you run Facebook ads? We're like, oh, yep, sure. We can run Facebook ads for you.
Stop.
And so we just started learning Facebook ads and that became our expertise. And then we started like realizing Pete's really stinking good at that. And so
Hmm.
we started essentially an ad agency and taught people how to run Facebook ads. And we wound up bartering our wedding photography. And we were like, okay, this industry is awesome. We love working with
Hmm.
other creatives and entrepreneurs. And like before that, we were doing, jewelers and lawyers and frozen yogurt shops. And so we niched into the wedding industry. And then I mean, like so much was just saying yes to
Yeah.
things and learning. And throughout that process, I have a marketing degree. And so I've always loved kind of the psychology of why things happen. I actually wanted to be a psych major. And then I realized I feel like I'm a little bit too much of an empath and would just like take my work home. And I loved business. And I think for me, I chose marketing as this psychology of business of like, why do people do what they do? And so yeah, I've always been more drawn to the strategy side of marketing and kind of building our own funnels. And um, the funny thing about why I'm an expert in funnels is actually because of me becoming a mom. I guess 5 years ago, my daughter just turned 4. We were doing Facebook ads. We were running an agency, so we were managing ads for people. And I was doing a lot of coaching, consulting on teaching other business owners how to get leads through Facebook ads. And I loved that work, but I was on calls all day, every day.
Hmm.
And because you coach too, like
Hmm.
it is an adrenaline rush, but it's also very draining to
Hmm.
do a lot of one-on-one work. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, okay, well, I
Yeah.
cannot sustain this type of business, no matter how much I love it. I can't sustain this in 9 months. And I don't want to. Like I knew I wanted to have a different kind of balance than working whenever. So we built our first funnel kind of as a default of like, okay, we've talked about this course thing. I guess this is really like we have 9 months to make it happen. And we did. We a lot of trial and error again, just figuring out what worked, what didn't for us. And that first funnel launched right before I went on maternity leave because, as an entrepreneur, we don't get maternity leave unless we give
Yes.
it to ourselves.
Yes.
And it brought in $30,000 in the 3 months that I was
Wild.
with my newborn. And that to me is why I was like, okay, funnels are awesome. Because,
Hmm.
and we can talk about this more, but I always avoided them because I felt they were really icky and not just overwhelming,
Mm.
but like I feel like how they were done a lot in the creative space just was not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
And so that first experience for our own evergreen funnel it shifted my mindset of like how we can use it to serve and impact people and still scale our own business and create those boundaries. So yeah, so since that was, I guess, 2018, funnels have been my main focus. And like, that's what I love doing, especially not just in my own business, but for other entrepreneurs that, especially moms. I work with a lot of
Yeah.
moms, just because like, like you, Joy, there are people that have scaled their business. They're great at what they do, but now they want more time. Like they want to still be able to serve people, but have that time with their family too.
Right. And there's nothing like that feeling of like, okay, something that I've built is continuing to work for me day over day, month over month, when I'm home with my kids, whether I'm in the office working, whether I'm out on a field trip, like something is going to help my clients get what they need and get closer to a purchase if they're the qualified lead. And that's just like such a good feeling. And so I love this. And I love that I didn't know your story that Pete actually quit his corporate job too at the same time. You
Yeah.
guys are so adventurous, so fun. Okay, so like I feel like funnels are like kind of a hot topic, almost a divisive thing too. Like you even alluded to like them having this like not like a little bit of an icky feel, like depending on how they're done and with the deadlines and that kind of thing. What I want to ask is, do you think funnels are going anywhere? Do you think there's anything that could take their place?
I think this is a really great question because I think there's so much, I mean, especially talk about AI and all these things of like what's going to stay, what's going to go away, how are things going to change in the marketing world, especially or business world. I I don't think funnels are going anywhere just because of I just think funnels are so core to what business is. And people don't even know that. Like the essence of a general funnel is how do you get
Mm-hmm.
how do you attract the right people and nurture and lead them into the conversion or sale, whatever that might be. So a funnel
Yeah.
isn't just this evergreen passive, let me scale a course in my sleep type of thing. Your funnel is booking your one-on-one services. Your funnel is your lawn people getting you to call them to come get a, landscaping service. That's all. Whether you're active and intentional in how you build your funnel and what those steps are, every business operates with funnels. So I think what is changing though is how we're able to use the tools and the tech that we have to make our jobs easier and also to serve people better. Because to your point, Joy, like what I love about funnels is that I can actually serve more people and get them the results and get them the help that they need, like give them the expertise I have that I in a way that I wouldn't be able to do if I was just taking on one-on-one clients all the time.
Yeah, like I can only answer so many DMs. I can only take so many one-on-ones. There's just a certain scalability that's really appealing to me for funnels. And I know that like for me personally, I think funnels can be a little intimidating as like a topic, but I do like what you were saying that a lot of marketing, whether we call it a funnel or not, is acting as a funnel. Because this is kind of an intimidating topic, how do you approach this in a way that feels accessible or like a good starting point for someone to be thinking about their funnels, especially for the women listening who might even be like a little bit more established in their business, but just not established in a funnel?
Yeah. Um, so this is like the marketing nerd in me. I was a huge nerd in school. Like if I could just go get degrees all day, I think I would do that. And that's what I think what has helped me is like the actual understanding of the strategy of, in my marketing classes, my marketing degree of understanding that the basics of a funnel is if you think of it like a kitchen funnel, right? Of the shape of that. No one can really see what I'm doing with my hands if you're listening to this podcast, but you think of a kitchen funnel. The funnel has at its core 3 stages. So awareness, consideration, and conversion. And your goal is to get more people in the top of the funnel and then it filters through the bottom. How do you get more from each stage? So awareness is just attracting the right people. So connecting with your audience. Joy, that for you, that's YouTube. For me, it might be my podcast, or other people, it might just be showing up at a Rising Tide event. Like there's so many different ways to fill the funnel. It could be Facebook ads, right? And
Yeah.
that second stage is the consideration. So it's whatever you're doing in that middle process. When we talk about courses and evergreen, that's usually the sales sequence, the emails, the things that are automated. But for you, it could be getting on a call, getting on an inquiry. How are you showing up and serving the people in between, that finding out about who you are and saying yes to whatever that goal or conversion is for you. And so I always try to break it down really simply like that to people, like especially when I'm working with clients, I break it down into those 3 stages because I think it's easier for people to understand, okay, this is the goal of each stage. Like there's a goal for the funnel in general, but how can we get more people aware? Then how can we get
Mm-hmm.
more people to, build that like, know, and trust and consider what your offer is? And then how can we get more people to say yes? And there's actually some cool stages beyond, they call it beyond the funnel on the other end, like building brand loyalty and advocates and things like that, that I think a lot of people don't talk about with funnels that are also equally important. But I would just say to think of it in like those simple terms and break it down step by step would be my first of people that don't, maybe are a little intimidated by the word funnel. And then I
Yeah.
would just think about it in a way of like for me, it always comes back to service. How can we build this in a way that serves people better? And I think people get hung up, and I know I did, is funnels can feel icky because I had a limiting belief that first funnel. I remember thinking, well, no one's going to be able to get the same results if I'm not working with them one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Or the opposite of the end of that, where it's like, I felt bad making this money and not putting 100% of the effort in every time, if that makes sense. Like, yes,
Yeah.
could people still get the results without me is one side of it, or like without my one-on-one. And then the other side of it was like, well, doesn't that feel weird and icky if like I'm making all this money and I'm not doing the work over and over again?
100%. I think
Eh,
that's money mindset. I think it really does
yes.
connect to money mindset because we hold on to this belief that like to make more, we have to spend more time, or it has to
Mm-hmm.
be really hard. It has to be really complicated. It has to be something that I've never done before. I have to reinvent the wheel, right? And by saying, okay, but there could be some ease in the process of this sale, and even have it be something more passive, which I know that that word gets thrown around a lot,
Yeah.
but like having your part of your income streams be passive, it absolutely will bring up feelings of like, wait, shouldn't this be harder? And sometimes I think we make it harder because it seems like money can't just flow to you like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's just wild how we, by thinking that, then don't pursue the funnel, or don't, get into the details of it, because I think the first funnel is not your last funnel. Like,
No.
it's going to be so much iteration, right? And so I think that is such a good point. I'm really glad that you said that, because I think that's a really common feeling, especially for women in business who truly care about their clients. And I think you
Mm-hmm.
can care about your customers and your clients and still have ease in the ways that you make money, which is something that I've been learning about and like reading about a lot this year. So I'm really glad that you shared that. But okay, so for someone just starting, really starting to think of like what is the end goal, and leading with service, and really believing that like this can take your client or customer closer to that consideration phase and then the conversion phase. I love how you put that, where you're kind of like adding people to the top where it's widest, and then they're flowing through it. So what's the next step here?
Mm-hmm. So, and I think to the point of the funnel too is like not everyone's going to convert. That's the shape of a funnel, right? So you could have 100 people be aware of you and say you have a 10% conversion rate and then another 10% conversion rate. You might have one person say yes, but you can still serve all of those people, right? They're going to be on your email list. You can show up for them in different ways. And so just because someone isn't saying yes right now or right away, there's still ways to show up and serve. I'm a huge
Yeah.
fan of building your email list and serving in that way. And I think how you build your funnel matters, to your point that you were just saying of like from a place of service. I think it makes a big difference between funnels that work and funnels that don't, especially in today's day and age where we're aware that your evergreen funnel, your webinar is not live. We're
Right.
aware of your
Yes.
evergreen funnel is not live.
You're not fooling anyone.
No. And I remember, I think in like 2015, I was on the Lewis Hose webinar or something like that. And it was
Yeah.
definitely an evergreen one. And I was like, this is so cool. And I
Yes.
mean, I wish I started webinars and funnels in
I
2015
know.
and just rode the wave. But
Yes.
I think to like make it less overwhelming, and the place to start is just keep it human and like build a
Mm.
funnel like you serve your regular clients. Don't try to build a funnel like a robot. Just
Mm-hmm.
if I mean, one of the things that we put in our funnel when we had the Facebook ads course is every time we got a new student, we used an app called Bonjoro.
Yes.
And I know I love
love
Bonjoro.
it. Yeah.
And I do it for my coaching clients as well, or my one-on-one clients. But anytime someone would do the course, and we were getting hundreds of students, like it wasn't a small amount of people at that time, but I would get a little notification on my phone. It would pop up, hey, send Joy a welcome video. And I would just send like a 30-second, 1-minute video. And it was just something that made it more human, more of a connection point.
Yeah.
And so what I would just tell you before you even build a funnel is just think about how you serve your clients now and like the results you want to get them and how you want to show up, because your funnel doesn't need to be 100% automated. You can do things that you could still show up and serve people and keep your personality and like your integrity and how you steward your business or whatever that might be for your clients. But in terms of practical steps, I would say the first thing you have to figure out, I always start with the end when you're building a funnel, because you have to know what you want them to say yes to, right? Like if my top of funnel offer, which is just that awareness day. So if you think about your opt-in, if that doesn't make any sense, like if I'm attracting people for this opt-in that isn't the right audience or product fit or pain point or need for that end offer, that funnel is not really going to convert very well. And so a lot of people that I work with are at the point, Joy, like you said, where they are really successful with their one-on-one services. And so it usually looks like, how can I turn this one-on-one offer into a more digital scalable offer, whether that's a course or a membership or a group program? That usually is the first step for a lot of entrepreneurs, because it's not necessarily creating something from scratch. Like you're taking the process that you are already doing and turning it into just online, like something you can kind of remove yourself from a little bit more.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you even pointed out that, of course, not everybody that comes into the funnel is going to end up purchasing whatever it is that you offer them. But I also like that you go into it knowing that there are different buyer personas. There are different people that are going to move quickly, people that are going to be more considering and read every detail. And it's really attracting both of those people, and you're going to get both those people into the funnel. And it's not necessarily a no that they didn't buy. It's just a no, not right now.
Yep.
Because, you know, then they're in your world, they're on your email list. And like you were saying, that's such a big thing to really focus on that email list, because that is an asset that you own, which is really, really important to be thinking about. And it's not always even about the size of that list, but really the quality and the engagement of that list. That's something that I've been really honing in on this year. And I just deleted like 1,600 subscribers from my email
how
list.
good does that feel?
I mean, at
and
first,
terrifying.
I will fully admit, at first I was like, dang it, I worked really, really hard for these people. But then like at the end of the day, and it was like one of my team members was like, but they're not opening our emails. And I was like, okay,
and it's
fine.
hurting you when they do. Yeah.
Yes. And so our deliverability, our open rates, our click-through rates are much more accurate now, because it had been a minute since we cleaned the list. And that's, you know, not fully what this is about, but it was such a good moment to really just realize like you really want to have the list be people that do want to hear from you, and that is such an important part of your, I guess, like this whole strategy of selling and marketing, which I love that you're sharing. So leading with the end in mind. Sorry.
No, you're good. I was getting really excited about what you're saying. Keep going.
No, go for it. No, I just like, I was just thinking to kind of summarize your points of like, start with the end in mind, lead with service, have the right opt-in so that they connect in a logical way, and just being a human. And I love that, because I feel like that feels really doable, you know?
And the thing I was going to add on what you were saying about cleaning your list is the purpose of a funnel is to attract the right people and repel the wrong ones. And I think that that's true for most marketing. But I think that scares people. We try to like cast this super wide net and just get anyone in our funnel. And that feels really great, except then they're not converting, right? And so I think the more that I think repelling the wrong people, and not in a way that's like, don't buy from me if you like cats, right? Like that's not that's not what it's about. I don't know how that even came in my head, but maybe I'll give a more realistic example. The Facebook course that Pete and I had, we were living in an RV. We were like in sweatpants and workout clothes most of the days. And we did not have a fancy setup or, you know, Ferraris in the back. Like, look at these Ferraris that we have. You know, we literally took one of those spider tripods that like wrap around trees, if you know what I'm talking about, and a camera. and we went to a cranberry bog, like on a trail that we knew people don't go back to this trail. And we knew Be Quiet. We recorded our free 5-day challenge video series, like in workout clothes, in a cranberry bog. And it wasn't about that. We taught good things, like helpful things, but we had so many people respond to those emails like, okay, I feel like I'm your friend. Like, I love that you guys are just
Yeah.
this is who, and that's who we are. And that might not work for
Yes.
everyone, but we probably also repelled people that were like, they wanted the
Yes.
people that are like, look at my Ferraris and all this money you can
Yeah.
make and sip margaritas on the beach and make money in your sleep, right? That we weren't preaching that.
No. But you also
But
didn't water yourselves down.
right. And so I think any marketing, and you're like visibility coach extraordinary, but it's funnels are the same thing. Just you need to know who you are and how you serve and who you're serving too and how you can help them and own that. And I think like I said, part of the funnel is going to be that becomes your superhero strength and like what can make your funnel really stand out and different is keeping the humanity in there, keeping you as a person, as your brand. And that also means repelling the wrong people because they're not going to convert and you're not going to maybe be the best person to serve them anyway.
That's a good point. I am curious, in your opinion, have you seen funnels shift and change in the past few years, and in what ways?
For sure. It's funny. I'm working with a client now and she has a funnel that's been really successful and we're kind of like redoing it and optimizing and editing it for this reason because what worked really well a few years ago is changing. And we mentioned this before, but a prime example of this is this webinar funnel that, sign up, pick a time. Like, why do I have to pick a time? The thing is not live, right? And then they're like, drop your questions in the chat and you see all these people chatting and it's not, you're like, wait, well, no one's answering my thing. Like, I think people are so aware for the most part, right? There are people that have never been in a webinar funnel and they're like, huh, how cool is this? He's on live with me. But most of us have been in enough funnels that we know when something is authentic and not. And the same goes with deadlines, right? If you say offers expiring, I almost like when I funnel hack or if I'm like in someone's funnel, I almost like wait until the quote unquote deadline expires and then I try to buy it the next day and I'm like, ha, liar. Like it's, if you're going to tell me that an offer is expiring, I mean, deadlines, urgencies, they're awesome in terms of increasing your conversion. But I think the integrity behind funnels is become more important. And like, if you're going to give a deadline for a discount, that deadline has to be legit and maybe not everyone funnel hacks like I do and they think it actually expired. But I would say I think that's the biggest thing that's changed is we have so much tech and tool at our advantage. It's easy to make it feel robotic. And so, I mean, maybe it's just my approach of like keeping humanity in funnels, but I think the ones that are doing really well now it's the mindset of like, how can I still serve you really well and do it in a way that doesn't involve all of my, time equals money, but still be authentic in how I'm doing that. Like, I think the ickiness factor of automations and tech and all that, like people get really turned off by feeling like someone's just totally hands off on something.
Yes. It sounds like it's just more effective to say, watch the replay of this 20-minute training and you're going to learn these 5 things. And people can decide whether they want to spend their 20 minutes on that or not. And making it readily available and less like false deadlines, false, is it live? Is it not? I totally agree. And I know that for some of them, it says it's a replay, but then you still have to choose a time. And like, I'm very much like in the moment when I'm looking at this stuff, like have minutes now, like I'm doing it now. And if they make it too difficult, I probably won't even opt in, which I'm sure I'm not alone in that. And that a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, like I don't want the calendar invite. I don't want 15 reminder emails. I just want to watch the dang training.
Yes.
Right. And that's funny. It's we did have an evergreen funnel, like a webinar that worked really well. And we wound up turning it into a free 15-minute training. And it was like, click this and literally you opt in, you can watch the training.
Immediate.
And it performed even better for us because, again, think about your market, right? Like I have someone I'm working with that is serving like busy newborn moms. And I'm like, busy newborn moms do not want to find a time for a webinar. They are probably breastfeeding and like want to watch it right this second.
Yeah.
And for me, it was entrepreneurs, right? Entrepreneurs have so many things on their plates. They don't want to pick a time. They just want to watch it now.
Yeah.
So I think for a lot of people. Like, just think about what makes sense for your audience. But yeah, I think people are over the fake.
Yes.
I don't know how to describe it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Yeah,
the
gimmicks, and it's
yeah,
just
the gimmicks.
it's
Yeah.
like old marketing. Like you see
Mm-hmm.
these like ads that were just kind of gimmicky and cheesy, and I guess it worked at the time, and it's just not going to fly now. And I was going to ask like, what are some of the pitfalls? What are some of the mistakes? But I feel like we've kind of highlighted on some of these,
Yeah.
and like older practices that are just no longer working, and that are also just not the vibe. I feel like so. What can you share a favorite like tip or hack or resource for just becoming more savvy and more knowledgeable when it comes to perhaps building out a funnel or just automations in general in your business?
So the funny thing is, a lot of what we did is you learn by doing too. I
Mm,
think you mentioned earlier, your first funnel is not going to be your last funnel. There are so many different ways to build a funnel, and
yeah.
there are a lot of really great ways to build a funnel. And just because someone's using a 5-day challenge or someone's using a webinar, like, I think in general for entrepreneurship, we have analysis paralysis and we're like, what is the best way to do this? And so we don't do it at all because there's 15 different ways to do it. So the first thing I would tell you, like tip wise, is just think about, what kind of opt in, what kind of like really makes sense for your offer and your audience, and just start and run with it and get feedback and make adjustments. Like, funnels are a lot of upfront work. And so part of it is like you just have to start doing it.
Mm,
That being said, I'm also a big fan of monetizing before you make it, because funnels are such a big work. And especially if you're creating a course or a membership or something on the back end, make sure that product, the offer alignment is there too. And
yeah.
maybe that means like getting some beta users. Maybe that means getting people to actually put a deposit down, or, making sure that the funnel, there's a lot of things that affect conversion, but will someone buy
Mm,
your offer at the end of the day is a big thing I would think about, or kind of
that's a
test
great point.
before
Well,
you go build a
right.
whole funnel.
Right, because those are two different things. Proving a concept of an offer, proving that you can get results with that offer and that is
Right.
in a wanted offer and that the offer messaging makes sense, and then having a funnel are almost two separate things. And
Yes.
so I have seen people say like I built a funnel and it didn't work or it's not working. And I'm sure you hear this all the time. And I know that like there are so many pieces to this, and you're calling out one of them being the entire offer and just making sure that like where you're sending traffic and where you're funneling people is actually something for sure people actually want. I love that. And I think that's like, we've got to start with the end in mind. You got to start with
Yeah.
that last piece. And you said had great success with a funnel. One of your first funnels while you were on your maternity leave made $30,000. And I know so many people have not had that experience, but I'm curious if you can share like, what do you think was something that contributed to the success of that past funnel? I know it's been years since that funnel, but what do you think was something that helped it convert so highly?
That's a really good question. I think there's two things. One is what we just talked about, of that funnel, that offer was built from our very successful 101 offer, right? Like, we were teaching people how to use Facebook ads to get, we were in the wedding industry still at the time. So brides, new leads. And at the time, people were relying on, what was it, like Wedding Wire and the Knot, like they were getting these
Mm-hmm.
not great leads, and paying all this money for it. And we were like, well, what if you could have control and get the leads that you want and serve them really well and like not get ghosted? And so we knew that there was a pain point. We knew the pain point really well. We knew the problem really well, and we knew how to fix it because we worked with it 101. And so I actually think one of the best ways to test a course idea is to essentially do it as a 101 service, because right now I'm building a next funnel for me, and I knew I wanted to wait until I had a certain amount of clients go through the process so I could see, where are people getting stuck? What do they need the most help with? What are resources? Like, people don't know what to write in emails. So like swipe copy, right? Like that from my
Yes.
own course. It there's a feedback loop there that I think is really helpful. And I think that made our course really successful, is we had the experience and we had the testimonials for that service. We knew
Yes.
we could say, hey, Joy took, in our 8-week program, Joy booked $30,000 worth of bridal clients on $300 of ad spend. That goes a long way of saying, like, I
Yeah.
can help you do this too. So I
Mm.
think having like a proven offer makes a big, having the right offer makes a big difference. And then I think the other end of it is that humanity part of it for us was like, we're in this to serve you really well. And like, this is what you're going to get out of it. Like, we were just really clear on who we were talking to. We were really clear on like how we were going to help and who, what the course was involved. So we wanted it to be a very easy yes for the right people.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
No, I love that. And I love that it sounds like because you had the proven offer, because you had the testimonials, the social proof, you were able to really hone in on the language of each of these emails. And to your point, saying that like some of your best offers came off the heels of one-on-one service. I completely have had the same experience. Like, every program that I've created in my business has been beta tested, has had rounds of people, has come off of one-on-ones and beta testing. And then even like Hobby to Pro Toolkit, which is probably my best selling offer to date, is based solely off of like, what was I being asked for? I was being asked for email templates, I was being asked for pricing templates, guides, figuring out policies, because photographers are constantly being asked weird questions like, can we split up our wedding coverage and have an hour break in the middle where you don't get paid? And like, just things that they're like, how do I respond to this? And I was like, yes, I'm going to sit down and give you I'm just going to put it all together into one affordable service. But I wouldn't have come up with that on my own. I just don't think I would have sat down and come up with this best-selling offer unless I was listening, like really, truly listening, like in the DMs, doing lives, have people emailing me back from just my nurture sequence funnel. Like, no, I wasn't selling anything, but just people coming into my email list. And I was like, here's all the cool stuff I have. Respond to me with your question. They were like, okay, well, how do I figure out what I'm going to price myself at? And I was like, let's create a guide. Like, this is a super relevant conversation that we need to be having. But until I know what language my audience wants to use, they may not see my solution as a solution to their problem.
Yes,
and
that's huge. That's a huge part, is in the listening, is using their words back. Like, that's, stop speaking in like marketing robot speak, first of all. And second of all, just use the words that your clients are already saying. Like, look at your reviews and testimonials, look at your inbox that people are responding to. And especially when you're creating the course content, but in the nurturing, the email series, the sales page too, what you think someone needs, like, what how to serve them, what they need, but that might not be how they think about it. And so listening to how they're talking, it's something I'm going through now in my own course build. Is I have a friend that is building a course from her own one-on-one, and I'm like, can you tell me what your actual pitfalls and struggles are? Because I can say, hey, let's scale evergreen funnels. And that might not, I know that's the solution, but it might not actually be what they're searching for or what they're thinking about. They just want to be less overwhelmed, and like, they're booked out and burnt out, and they need a way to serve people without taking up all their time, right? So use that, use the words that people are telling you through your whole process. And in the offer that you create, don't try, you're the expert, right? But don't try to be the expert in the sense that you have to show them every single piece of knowledge you have or the most advanced things. Like, do it at the level that they need it. And I think it's easy to forget. Like, for me, I love funnels. I've been doing them for so many years. It's like second nature. I forget that some of the basics for me, are really complicated for someone that's never done it. And so I think too, like, in how I explain things or how you're creating anything, whether it's the top of the funnel or the end offer, remembering to kind of speak their language and listen to what they need is a huge, huge part of the success of our funnels. And I think, most funnels in general.
Yeah, I love this. And I think even offering to do like 5 to 10 minute like market research calls can be a great way to do this. Like, I've had surveys in my business where I've put out surveys to my audience, but the way that somebody will like type out their problems might be totally different than if you can just get somebody to just talk, like stream of consciousness, like what is going on, because they might just keep coming back to like, I just like, I don't know where do you find clients? And they keep using the word find clients. So if you say that you're going to like attract ideal clients or get booked out, yes, that's kind of the same thing. But like to them, their felt need is that they need to find the clients.
Yep.
And so it's just kind of interesting how these words, like even knowing that, you know, you can use the hashtag find more brides and like things like that. And so it's just amazing how the closer you get to the language and the messaging that your target audience is already using, the more compelling your sales page and your offer becomes. And then of course, all the funnel pieces as well. This is such like, it's kind of woven in with all of your marketing background, and even like the psychology is a huge part of this, and building trust and nurturing those leads. And I find marketing really fascinating because of that, because it's combining like humanity and people's problems and business. And I'm like, these are all my favorite things. Like, let's just hang out and talk about like marketing and language. This is so cool. Okay. My next question that I have for you is, what's a software or a tool that's maybe newer to you in your business, but you're loving it right now and it's helping you in some way?
Okay, well, you probably already know the answer to this because it's Notion and I'm obsessed with it.
Yes.
And you know what's funny? I probably just heard it on your podcast and I was like, what is this Notion thing that she's talking about? And I, went in like the YouTube of like, okay, how to use Notion, because I think like every tool, it can get very overwhelming to use a new tool. And I was like, literally using it as a glorified notepad, I think, for a long time. Like, oh, I can do checklists. Great. And that's kind of how I was using it. And then I watched some YouTube tutorials on all the things I could do with Notion. And now my podcast portal, my client portals, I've created these spaces with Notion that hold all the information they need and links. And like, I've been using it for my funnel clients, and it's been so cool to have one hub that has their funnel map, their like whole plan and checklist, any, assets or anything that we need to upload. And I am obsessed with Notion.
Oh my
Thanks
gosh.
to you.
I need to see the back end of this so badly, because the cool thing about Notion is it's almost like telling somebody about a website builder. Like what they create is going to be so unique to them. Like someone could be using Notion and it looks completely different than how I'm using Notion. And it always sparks ideas. Are you using...
I didn't even know I could do that with Notion. Like I remember Notion also has an entire marketplace, if you've never used it, where you can just go buy templates. Like templates. Oh, you want a meal planning Notion template? Here. You want a budget Notion template? Here. You want a vacation planning Notion template? Here. Like there is a Notion
packing
template
list done.
For everything. Also, Notion has AI now. So it's built in. I can say like, hey, Notion, outline this podcast episode for me. And it will do that.
And it's actually pretty good. I was playing around with it, and I think you can even write like the introductory paragraph, highlight that paragraph, and then say like, expand on this. Like, and it just keeps going. I'm like, wow. So yeah, Notion is remarkable. And I'm so happy that I influenced you for Notion.
Yes.
This is amazing.
Notion influencer.
Yes, I just need to get like sponsored by them. But yes, the whole YouTube tutorials on Notion is a black hole. Like it's a little intimidating. Like the stuff that the databases and the complexities that some of these people put together.
I saw someone build like their like life, like it was like their personal dashboard desktop. And I was like, you do not need this guy's thing was overwhelming. I was like, this isn't even helpful anymore. You have every piece of information for your entire life on this dashboard.
Like wake up, brush your teeth.
And like check it all off, right? But I mean, because I'm a geek, I created a Notion dashboard for the books that I'm reading this year. I think I'm on book like 25, but it's been a space for me to be like, these are the books I want to read. These are the books I'm currently reading. And tags for like the month I'm reading, the type of book, if I'm audio or it's a really cool database.
That's awesome. I have a database, but like it's individual pages. And because a lot of books, especially like Audible books, they have a download, and then it's like, where am I going to put this? So I actually have started to save like whatever workbook or download or thing comes with book, especially like Michael Hyatt's books and Donald Miller. And there's like lots of downloads, and I love to be able to come back to them. But I also have a database for all the courses, like every login,
That's so smart.
It's so nice because I'll forget I even have some of these courses, which is awful. But especially if you buy bundles, like if you buy during a bundle sale, you get access to like 50 courses. So as I'm logging in, I put them all into Notion. And then if I have some time and I'm like, oh, I really want to learn about Zapier, I can be like, I feel like I had a course on this. I go over into Notion, and it
Mm-hmm. And you can
literally,
search really easily, and like you can take notes within little I mean, people that don't know Notion are probably confused by this, but we could do a whole episode on like how
we
to use
should.
Notion.
We should, and I can show like my whole podcast database, and then you can show yours because they'll look very
Yes.
different. This is so fun. Okay, so we'll have to come back for a Notion episode. If y'all
Yeah.
want to hear that, let us know. Send us a DM, or just say no, no thanks. Okay, so let's jump into the rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
So first question: what does called to both mean for you?
Oh, I love this question. And I've told you this a million times. I just love what you're doing with Call to Boast because I think it gives permission to all of us that are struggling with this. And for me, I think being called to both is not having to sacrifice the work you love for the people you love and not having to sacrifice the people you love for the work you love. And that has been such a struggle for me becoming a mom, is like balancing this ambition and this desire to raise my kids and be present in their lives. And so I just adore that. Like I love that you have this brand in this space in this podcast, because I think there are a lot of us that struggle with what I feel so called as my role in a mama, but I also feel like God's given me these gifts and talents and experiences that I want to steward and serve people with, and the permission that it's not just okay to do both, that but we can celebrate doing both, and knowing that the called to both lifestyle looks very different for every person and every mom too.
Yes, it really truly does. Okay, what is one thing that has surprised you about motherhood or becoming a mom?
I think that it's such a mirror in your own life.
Ooh.
Like I feel like motherhood has really, it's been a mirror back on like my own patience, my own love, my own discipline. And every time that I get like frustrated or discouraged because my toddler's throwing a tantrum and she won't listen to me, and I'm like, I promise you this is what's best. I think it's been integral in my own faith journey too, because I'm like, this is probably what God thinks all the time, that I'm like trying to do my own thing and do it my own way. And
Yes.
it's been such a reminder of like, all right, and he's so gracious to me and loves me, and like still just, like there's still that discipline obedience part of it, but the full of grace and mercy and love. And that's something I'm like, all right, am I really doing that with my kid? Probably not. I'm probably a little salty or like short. And it's I think that's what surprised me, is like it's such a mirror back on who you are and how you like, I can say all these things to my kids or tell them I want them to act a certain way, but it's been such a mirror and like a reflective point on who I am, who I want to be, who I want my children to see, and like actually living out the things that we say are important in
Yeah.
our own lives. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I love that. I haven't heard anyone answer in that way. And as soon as you said a mirror, I was like, oh, yeah. And kind of like a punch to the gut.
For the best or the worst, right?
Oof, it's so true. It's so true. And it's like it brings out a different side of you. And it's a humbling position to be in, for sure.
Yeah, my kids, like what they come up with. I mean, I remember when Ellie was little, Pete and I sat down to dinner, and she was like 18 months, right? Or like maybe 2. And we must have just like said our prayers in our head and like started. She was sat there with her hands full, and she's like, "You didn't pray." And I'm like, okay, like the things that they pick up on.
Yes.
But then also like Charlie, when we'll play a tea party. And she's like, "Mommy, here's coffee." And I'm like, I guess I drink a lot of coffee, because all they make me whenever we play pretend is coffee.
They know you so well. I love that. You have coffee parties.
I know, but they're just aware of like the things that you don't say and who you are, and that you see that reflected back in like how they talk to you and what they say and what they pick up on. You're like, oh wow.
You're right. You're right. Every time, like if I'm near a computer, Clara's like, what are you working on?
Yeah.
Like it has to be work.
My kids sit at my computer, they're like, I'm working.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. For better or for worse. That's exactly how they see it. Okay. What is one tool or tip that you can share that has helped you thrive in either your business or your motherhood, or maybe in both?
I think the tip I'll give, I think it's kind of hand in hand, is boundaries and simplicity. And as entrepreneurs, I think it's so easy. We wear all the hats. We can we can work anywhere all the time. And I've definitely fallen into the trap of then you work everywhere all the time. And before I had kids, it was fine. We could do that. We could stay up till 2 a.m. with a new landing page and test an offer and have a great time. And I think that something that's really helped me to thrive, it's been really hard and very good for me in my motherhood and business balance, if you will, is setting really strict boundaries. And in order to do that, I've really had to simplify my business and my home life. Like, do
Mhm.
things that make those things easier, streamline. I know you, I think, factor like your meals that you get. Like, there
Yeah.
are things that I think you can do to simplify. Okay, you can't, if you're going to eat healthy, you need to just have your meals delivered. For me, simplifying the home life is I have an app that I use to work out, and it's a home based dumbbell workout because that will actually get me to work out. And then on the
Yes.
business end, it's like, this year especially, I mean, I have 1.5 days, if I'm lucky, a week of work right now. And so I had to sit down and like cut the fat of, okay, what's the one type of service I'm going to focus on, and what's the one type of place I'm going to show up. And I chose podcasts, and I chose my funnel building,
Mm.
and giving yourself permission to simplify and then set boundaries on the rest of like, okay, this is not my work time, or this is not something I'm going to say yes to in the season. Like, the seasons
Yes.
change, your schedules change. And so I think what we all thrive differently too. I know that's just really helped me, is having really set boundaries. And the only way I could set really strict boundaries for like the work life was just simplifying as much as I could, what I'm doing and how I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's so good. It's funny that you mentioned simplicity, because we have another episode coming out here on the podcast just about the importance of simplicity in business. And just, it's funny how this is like a theme. And I think God does that, where you start honing in on something and he's like, here, let me give you a little bit of
Yep.
this. And now you're ready to talk about like boundaries and simplicity. So that's so good. Okay. What is the last book or podcast that you read or listened to?
Oh, I just read like an entire series in a week of books, and it was just like a fiction book. I literally binged them in a week. But the book that I'm reading right now that I'm really enjoying, and we were kind of talking like homeschool and kids and things right before this, is The Call of the Wild and Free.
I just
Have
put that
you?
on my wish list.
Oh, it's so good. How far am I? I'm like 60 because I have Kindle, 68%. So I haven't just finished it, but I'm a decent amount through it. And I've really been loving it. I think for me, the idea of homeschooling can feel really overwhelming. And so it's been a really good book of everything from like the different types of options out there to just like almost the permission of like, yeah, this is a totally valid, worthy thing that you can do as a mom, and as,
Yes.
feeling equipped and feeling called to that. So if anyone is considering Joy, I mean, you have more homeschool experience than me, but I love the
Yeah.
book so far. It's been really great.
We're going to have to come back and do a homeschool episode, especially once we start homeschooling our girls.
Yes.
Yeah. And for anybody who doesn't know, I was homeschooled. All my siblings were homeschooled. So I'm like totally comfortable with the idea of homeschooling. It like doesn't seem foreign to me at all, because I know someone's going to ask, what is the fiction series that you read in a week? Because you have to share
The Crown of Thorns and Roses. Have you heard it?
that. No.
Do you know? Okay. It sounds ridiculous. It's something that I've like seen. It's like this like fandom, right? Like the fan fiction stuff that people freak out about. And I am not like a fantasy reader so much. Like, I loved Harry Potter. Don't get me wrong. So to me, I just saw enough people post about it, and there was someone I follow. I think it was Lindsay Ronan or
Yes.
right. So I saw her share, because she reads a lot too, and so I was like, all right, maybe I'll get into this. And then she was like posting about book one and like her mind being blown. I'm like, all right, dang it, I'm gonna read the dang series. And it's funny, I borrowed it I use Hoopla and Libby to read on the Kindle, because I just borrow books from the library. And I had borrowed it, and I had like 2 days left before it expired. And this thing has like months long wait list. I'm like, I have to read this book in 2 days. And I did. And it was, I will say, like, I think books 2 and 3, there's 5, were really good. And it was kind of like Harry Potter meets Twilight meets Game of Thrones meets Dune meets like it is kind of wild. I will say it gets a little steamy. The 5th book was like a little bit too steamy versus plot for me.
Okay.
But so fair warning, spice warning for people. But it was really good.
Oh, that's so fun. And I love that you are just getting outside of like work reading, because it's like, I listen to a lot of books on money mindset and goals and productivity and all the things. And then sometimes it's nice to just go completely off and just do something.
Yeah, I got totally sucked in. I think that was why I got sucked in, because I'm so like, I'm reading a homeschool book. I was reading a parent, like Habits of a Household. Awesome book. I read that recently.
Oh, I have that one. Yes.
Yeah. So like I I think I read like 5 books at all times because I always have like a business book. I'm reading Alex Hormozzi's book, and then I started The Artist's Way, like
Yes.
all these really great books that I'm in the middle of. And I kind of
Yes.
just needed like a brain
Yep.
detox, like
You
not
just need a
detox, but
break.
because we don't really watch TV anymore. And that's been a habit for me this year is like, instead of watching a Netflix show, I get in bed and I read. And so I kind of just needed to like binge a book
Sometimes
series.
you just need to like literally have 3 hours go by and you don't know what happened. Like
Yeah, except then I'm up till like 2 a.m. reading a fantasy book. I'm like, my children are going to wake me up in 4 hours.
Yeah, that's
not the plan.
Mom problems, like for sure. Okay, last rapid fire question. What is something that you're excited about and looking forward to?
I think just being out here in the summertime. We moved to Breckenridge, Colorado in the fall. And so we got a little bit of like the beautiful fall weather, and then we get like 10 months of winter out here. So it like snowed last week. And
Dang.
yeah, the ski mountain closes literally this weekend in May. And so I'm very excited to just be out here, like living somewhere where we have so much, hiking and outdoors and adventures. Like we're so close to so many awesome parks and places. And so I think I'm just really excited to have the summer and explore with my kids.
I love that. That's going to be awesome. Okay. Where can people find you, follow you, learn about working with you, and just absorb more of your teachings about funnels and automations?
Yeah. So jordanjones.co is this website, and that's my Instagram as well, at jordanjones.co. And if you want to think about funnels specifically or kind of dip your toe in it, if you go to jordanjones.co/funnel, it'll give you kind of a opt-in that I have on how to start mapping out your first funnel. So that'd be a good first step to take.
Yes.
And then you can funnel hack me. And then you can be
yes. They will learn from the best. Yeah. I will have all of this in the show notes below. And of course, my episode is over on your show. And I think I was episode 8. Is that right?
Sounds right. Work and Worship. I can pull it up, but the Work and Worship podcast, I probably should have mentioned that too.
Yes.
I'm new to the podcasting world.
We'll link it up. It up. Thank you so much. We're definitely going to have you back.
Thanks, Joy. I had such a fun time.